Welcome to progeCAD Basics for Beginners. This is Entity Drawing and Editing Basics. For this video, I'll be using a new blank drawing, which I already have open. Before we learn how to create some of the most basic geometric elements of drawing in progeCAD, you'll need to understand how your work plane is set up. progeCAD uses the Cartesian coordinate system to define locations in a drawing. Points are located by designating a horizontal axis, called X, and a vertical axis, called Y. Distance is measured as a real number from the origin, which is designated as 0, 0. A point that is to the right of 0, 0 on the X is positive, and to the left it's negative. Up on the Y is positive, and down is negative. Using this system, one can define any point in your drawing. In this example, 2 units over and 3 units up is defined as 2, 3. That brings us to angles in progeCAD. If you consider the cardinal points of a compass, 0 degrees is to the east. The angle is then calculated in a counterclockwise direction. As you can see from the Drafting Settings dialog, this can be changed, but we do not recommend doing so, as this is considered an industry standard. Recall when I was describing the Cartesian coordinate of being 2 units over and 3 units up. I used the word units on purpose, as that is how progeCAD thinks. The unit can be whatever you want it to be. The 2, 3 coordinates can be inches, yards, millimeters, meters, furlongs, or light years. It's up to the user to know what the unit of measure is and to stick with it. You can, however, tell progeCAD to display those units in a format that may make more sense to you. Most common is architectural. If set this way, you'll see the value of 18 displayed as 1 foot-6 inches, assuming that you've defined a unit as an inch. But remember, to progeCAD, it's still just 18 units. It's just displaying it differently for you. I'm going to open one of the sample floor plan files now. Unlike the old days of board drafting, drawings are not scaled while being created. Everything is drawn at full scale and is later scaled when being viewed. More on that later. In this example, the 52 foot-3 inch distance is actually that, or to my previous point, it's displaying as 52 feet-3 inches, but to progeCAD, it's 627 units. Our final topic before learning about creating basic entities are your navigation tools. You can find them in the ribbon menu from the View tab. Basically, they come down to zooming and panning throughout your drawing editor. While we invite you to try out each tool, in reality, you'll use your mouse to zoom and pan just like almost every other CAD user in the world. Those who don't probably don't have a mouse with a center scroll wheel. If you don't have one, it might be worth a small investment to get one. Since you can't see me using my mouse, I'll just quickly describe the actions. Roll the scroll wheel forward to zoom in. Roll it backwards to zoom out. Press and hold the scroll wheel to pan. Just move the mouse in the direction you want to go. Double-click the scroll wheel to zoom to the extents of the drawing. There are a couple of other navigation tools that appear within the drawing editor. In the upper right, you'll see the navigation cube, or nav cube for short. In the upper left are the viewport controls. These tools become very useful when working in 3D. Okay, now that we're armed with all of that, let's get started with the most basic entity of all, the humble line. I'll return to the blank drawing now by clicking on its File tab. I'll switch the Ribbon tab to Home and click once on the line icon. progeCAD will launch the line command and prompt you via dynamic input for the start point of the line, highlighting the entry box. Please also note the prompts will also show up on the command line at the bottom. If you choose not to use dynamic input, you'll find all your prompts there. Whenever progeCAD prompts you for a point, you can either left-click with your mouse to select the point where your cursor is, or you can enter a coordinate. I'll begin by using the simplest method of picking a start point and an end point, then continue drawing lines to demonstrate each method and option. I'll click somewhere near the bottom left for the start point. Pull the cursor out a bit and click again, creating a small line segment. Notice that I'm still in the line command, and it is using the endpoint of the first line as the start point of the continuation. When you're done, you can press the Enter key to exit the command. I'll just continue to demonstrate more. I'll pull the mouse over to the right, and this time, instead of clicking a point, I'll type a distance into the dynamic input box. I'll enter 6.5, which in this drawing equates to 6.5 inches. Hit enter, and the endpoint is created. I'll now pull the cursor up and over to the right some, enter 4 for the distance, and then the Tab key to switch to the angle entry box. There, I'll type 45 and hit enter. I've just created a new segment that is 4 inches long and 45 degrees from the last point. I'll pull the cursor out to the left, type in 1 foot - 2 inch into the length box. Hit enter, and a line 14 units long at the angle I was pointing at will be created. Finally, I'll close up our shape, enter C for close in the distance box, and hit enter. A line to the original starting point will be created, thus closing the shape. If lines are the most common entity to be drawn, then the erase command is certainly the most common editing command. You can access it in a variety of ways. It's in the Modify panel of the Home tab of the ribbon, but it's a very small icon here in the upper right. If you choose to do it this way, you can click the icon, then select the entity you want to erase. You can also reverse that order by selecting the entity first, then clicking the icon. You could also click the entity, then right-click and select Delete. However, most CAD users find that utilizing the keyboard is the most efficient method. I'll demonstrate and explain since you can't see my keyboard. Select the object or objects to erase, then type E, the alias for erase, and pop the spacebar with your thumb. Recall that the spacebar and Enter key are interchangeable in progeCAD. After selecting the entity to remove, you could also press the Delete key to erase it. Both methods are highly efficient. The shape we just drew kind of just went off in all directions. Often, you'll need to constrain your work to either the X or the Y plane. This is called ortho mode and is an on-off toggle. You can find it in the status bar. It is also very common to use the F8 function key to toggle the setting. When it is on, your cursor movement will be constrained to the X and Y axes, although you can still specify coordinates and angles via the dynamic input boxes. Let's learn a couple of more basic entities. What I just drew looks like a rectangle, but to progeCAD it's not. It's just 4 line segments that take the shape of a rectangle. There is a rectangle command in the Draw panel, so let's look at that. Click it, and you will now see a familiar prompt wanting you to select the first corner. I'll just click anywhere to start. Now, it's just a matter of selecting the opposite corner. Notice you still have the ability to specify distances with the dynamic input boxes. I'll just click a point to make the rectangle. I'll click on it, and you will see that all the sides are connected as a single entity instead of line segments. Let's learn about drawing circles next. Again, you'll find it in the Draw panel. I'll click it, and notice the first point it wants is the center point. I'll select a random point on the drawing and pull the cursor out some. Now it wants the radius. As usual, you can type it into the dynamic input box, or you may want to enter the diameter instead. Press the arrow down key on your keyboard, then select diameter from the dynamic input pull-down menu. I'll just click a second point to create a circle. The beginner workspace only has the radius or diameter methods of drawing a circle, but if you're in other workspaces, you'll have 4 other methods to create a circle. You can find out more information, download their 30-day free trial, or purchase your own progeCAD license at www.progecad.com.